to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I've been looking forward to our special guest today. His book is a fascinating read. It's called Be the Weight Behind the Spear. There's a picture of the cover of the book on there. Dr. Josh McConkey is with us. He's an Air Force colonel, combat physician. He's the author of that award-winning book and best-selling book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Military service includes providing critical medical support in both wartime and peacetime operations, with over 340 hours as a flight surgeon, 90 combat hours in rotor wing and medical evacuation and air assault missions in the Middle East. He's Air Medal and Army Commendation Medal recipient for exemplary service during Operation Iraq Freedom. And he does have a webpage weightbehindthespear.com, and there's the landing page of that website as well. So, Dr. McConkey, good to see you. How are you today?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show today.
You bet.
It's blessed. It's a wonderful day.
Yeah. Where are you? Where are we Skyping you?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. All right. Good to see you. Wow. A lot to talk to you about. Short amount of time. Hey, how significant is it in your mind to rename Fort Bragg?
Huge. It's always been Fort Bragg. It will always be Fort Bragg. So for them to go back and change the name, and in doing so, honoring one of the greatest generation of World War II veterans. So yeah, I think it was a win on all fronts.
That's wonderful. So much going on today with the military. What do you think about the changes that are happening now in the Defense Department?
They have been a long time in coming. I've served for over 23 years and was disappointed the last 4 years under the Biden administration. I think we're moving back in the right direction again as a military commander. It makes us a more lethal force. Nobody likes to carry out that mission, but our job is to dissuade our enemies and when need be, deliver that lethal force. And I think we're getting back on track.
This is amazing. The other thing is that we're also seeing some budget cuts, and I don't know if we civilians sitting out here understand what a budget cut in the Defense Department really means. Is that more personnel or is that armament? What do you think it is?
So Secretary Hegseth has talked about that specifically, and the media has really pushed out there that this is a cut. It's not a cut. They're doing the first audit for the Department of Defense probably ever, at least for several decades, and they're going to be reallocating that money so that it can be put to use for that specific mission. What makes us more lethal? Is that going to be weaponry? Is it going to be reinvesting in our people? So they're going to reevaluate that. So the media has pushed that as a bunch of cuts, but it's really, they're just reallocating that money and doing a formal audit.
That's amazing. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think everybody welcomes this. Were you, I don't know if you can speak to this, but how woke did the military become?
More than I would have liked. And the focus had turned into, I honestly felt like they were trying to separate the services. So within squadrons, within wings, the awards that were put out and the DEI initiatives, I hope that they went in with some good intentions. The results were just not. All they did was separate. Like when I would submit for awards, there was the African American awards, and then there was the Asian awards, and everything was broken down. We're a team, and I like diversity. I want diversity. I have a ton of diversity in my squadron, and it's a very good thing. But when you make that your singular focus, instead of having the meritocracy and having awards and decorations and promotions just based on professionalism and character and results, the quotas and the DEI really became pervasive and made it very difficult to have a cohesive unit. I am very supportive of the changes that are being made.
I guess what keeps our brain on tilt, Dr. McConkey, is that why wasn't there more pushback by leadership? Why? I mean, so many people see it the way you see it and was up against it the way you were up against it. Why didn't they just push back and say this is nonsense?
It's an easy way to end a career. So when the people in charge are making those decisions, they're also the ones on the promotion boards and on the command selection screening boards. So doing the right thing. I always try to do the right thing. I mean, regardless of the repercussions. I literally had a business several years ago where I turned down a $3.4 million bribe and ended up losing a ton of money when the CEO is embezzling and doing a bunch of crazy illegal things. But I did the right thing, and it cost me some money. But on the military, I certainly follow orders. And, I'm happy to do so. We have civilian-led leadership for our military, always have, and I'm very supportive of that. I just disagreed with the Biden administration quite strongly, and I'm very glad that Trump is in office.
I want to come to your book. This is a fascinating book, and I want to get you back because we only have you for one segment today. But what's behind this? What made you step out on this?
So, as an emergency physician, I have seen the repercussions of bad policy decisions, and I talk about the COVID generation for Gen Z. So this is a group of kids, of Americans that we shut out of school, we shut out of churches. They already had difficulties communicating with one another without having an iPad in front of them, and you just shut them off from society and their church and any faith and their support. And now I see huge rises in anxiety, depression, and suicide. And then as a military commander, I see the same cohort of Americans, like our youth, our future, that lack resiliency skills, they lack leadership. In between those two, like my civilian and my military job, I was so concerned that I wrote this book. This is my call to action. We've diagnosed the problem. This is the solution. And we need to get all hands on deck, faith, community, schools, coaches, mentors, and teachers. That's the best resource that we have in this country is our people. And I want people to engage their communities so we can pick this generation up.
Do we see that? Do we hear that as a clarion call?
I hope so. And the more that we talk about this, I really appreciate you talking about this message as well. The more people that we get involved, the more people that realize that what they do every single day matters. Those little things. Coaching, go coach. I coached t-ball. I coached soccer when my kids were younger. Volunteer in your schools or your church or some organizations in your community. All of that matters, and that it's a team sport. Life is a team sport, and we need everybody.
Are we recovering from COVID?
We are, certainly. I think there's a lag, and you don't see the full repercussions of those bad policies decision for several years. So we're seeing that now. So you have an entire group of Americans that just during critical years in their development, we let them down. And we have to own that as community and as faith leaders and not just complain about it, but what are we going to do about it? So that's getting engaged, teach them those leadership skills, teach them resiliency. There's a lot of parents, you see the lawn, it used to be helicopter parents. Mm-hmm. Now it's lawnmower parents. So they just want to mow down everything in their kids' path so it's nice and smooth sailing. That is not the right thing to do because your child does not know how to overcome obstacles. They don't know how to adapt and overcome. And when they meet obstacles, they just quit. And you have to let them fail, fail safely, be there for, instill that faith, instill those values and be there for your children. But you have to let them make some mistakes because that's how they learn. And that's how they develop their resiliency skills. Because when they get to the adult world and they're looking for jobs, they're getting out of college, they don't have those skills. And we're seeing how that impacts our community with a huge mental health care crisis.
Oh, gosh, I want to touch on that. But I want to ask you one other quick question. I want to lean on your physician skills just for a moment. I'm reading a lot today about the long-term effect of the vaccine. Very alarming. Are you concerned about it?
Very concerned, specifically with that vaccine. I'm a physician. I had a degree in biology. We've changed the tide of disease for so many different diseases over the last 100 years. But this vaccine in particular, I don't feel in some of the younger population, you had your at-risk population. So you had people with autoimmune disorders or lung diseases, extremes of ages, over age 50, over age 60, that the vaccine saved lives. Now, if you take a young, healthy 18-year-old with no medical problems, the vaccine did not prevent the spread of the disease. and they had such a low risk. Personally, I felt there should have been some more research and a lot more questions asked to be vaccinating our younger Americans.
I want to come back to mental health. I'm glad you bring this up. Are we reevaluating mental health for what it really is?
We haven't made enough, headway on that. There's a lot of room to go. There's a huge increase in anxiety, in depression, in suicide. Our policy failures that we've had over the last several years contribute to that significantly, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I think we've made some big moves since January 20th. It's going to move things in a better direction. And now with RFK, at Health and Human Services, I think there's some big questions that need to be asked and a little bit more research. So in addition to the other, making America healthy again, mental health is a huge component of that. And I feel very confident this administration is heading in the right direction. What
do you hope they do? I mean, what would you like to see done?
Make America healthy again. Address the obesity issues, the mental health issues, the dyes and chemicals in our food. There is so much of what we put into our bodies every day that you can't even get overseas. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Australia and New Zealand. The food, you can't buy these foods and these chemicals anywhere else on planet Earth but the United States. So there needs to be a concerted effort from our government, from Americans at large, to take better care of themselves and what they're putting into their body. The obesity and the diabetes epidemic in America is killing millions. And you look 10, 15, 20 years down the road, what those risks for heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, blindness from, diabetic retinopathy. There's so many diseases that are going to get much, much worse over the next decade unless we really get aggressive.
I think we were all kind of had our brains on tilt when RFK Jr. shut down his campaign and decided to endorse President Trump. And he gave a speech there for about a half hour concerning the food chain, the obesity issue, overall the concerns that we talked about here. I think we were all kind of shocked to see that he was so, A, informed, and B, so passionate about it. And he's now brought to light to something that, well, you as a physician probably knew about it for a long time. Me as a consumer had no idea that the ketchup I buy here is not even close to the ketchup you buy in Europe. This has got to be a good thing. I guess my question to you is, can he get this done, and what role will Big Pharma be in trying to prevent it from happening?
You're going to have a very concerted effort, resistance to change by the pharmaceutical companies. They have a lot of political power, a lot of clout. I mean, they've contributed to just about every congressman and senator in our government. But he can be successful. He has President Trump's backing. And when you have it at that high of a level for that focus, and that slogan was so successful, make America healthy again. It's simple. People understand that. Our cancer rates are higher than some other areas in the world. Just in the last 30, 40 years, I mean, you've had some tripling of some cancer rates. And then with the diabetes, the obesity, the mental health, it all ties together. So he has to be successful for America to be successful. I think it's something that most parents can get behind. I have 3 children of my own, and so I pay a lot of attention to those things.
Of course. Thank you for your time. I wish I had more. Let me say to our viewers, I want to get him back, but check out his book. It's award-winning and best-selling. It's called Be the Weight Behind the Spear. There is a picture of the cover of the book on the screen, and that's also the website, weightbehindthespear.com. There's a picture of that landing page. You can check it out, get a copy of this, and read it. Colonel, good to see you. Thank you for your time. We look forward to getting you back.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you.